Hi. So in this video, what we'll look at is a combinatorics problem. Basically, it's a probability question. We have to select 5 different numbers randomly from the set 1 to 20. And we have to find the probability that there are at least 2 adjacent numbers among the 5 selected ones. So basically, we can pick any 5 numbers from 1 to 20 randomly and check the probability of the event that 2 of the numbers that are selected, or at least 2, are adjacent. So they are consecutive numbers, right? So let's say, suppose we select A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 from 1 to 20. Now, why am I saying I'm selecting unequal numbers here or different numbers from the set? Because if I can count the number of ways I can select this, the unequal numbers, then obviously this is the case where none of the numbers are adjacent, right? Actually, I'm wrong. This could have cases where the numbers are adjacent because A1 could be less than A2, right? Now, this is the total number of ways of selecting 5 different numbers from the set, basically, right? Okay, so if A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 are not adjacent, right? If A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 are not adjacent, then what is the condition? We have to say that A1 was the smallest number, so we can say A1 can start from 1. A1 can be greater than or equal to 1, but A2 is not adjacent to A1, right? So A2 should be like, it cannot be 1 more than A1, right? Because that will make it adjacent. So A1 should be less than A2 minus 1, right? Because if A1 is equal to A2 minus 1, then A1 and A2 become adjacent, correct? So what I'm saying is if the 5 numbers are not adjacent, then we have A1 can start from 1 and A1 has to be less than A2 minus 1. And similarly, A2 minus 1 should be less than A3 minus 2, right? Think about it. If A2 minus 1 is equal to A3 minus 2, basically A2 and A3 are then separated by just 1, right? Then A2 and A3 will become consecutive. Do you understand? So A2 and A3 will become consecutive if A2 minus 1 is equal to A3 minus 2. And basically what we are trying to make sure here is that they are not adjacent. So we have this inequality, right? And similarly, we can write this is less than A4 minus 3, and this is less than A5 minus 4, and this is less than equal to basically A5 minus 4. A5 could be basically 20 also, right? The highest number of the set could be 20. So A5 minus 4 should be less than equal to 16, right? So here I'm setting up inequalities for the case where A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 are not adjacent, right? These inequalities ensure that the numbers A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 will never be consecutive numbers, right? Okay, great. So what we will say is let's label these numbers as B1, B2, B3, B4, and B5, right? So what are we saying? We are saying B1 is A1, B2 is A2 minus 1, B3 is A3 minus 2, and so on. B4 is A4 minus 3, and B5 is A5 minus 4. And the range of the B's is from 1 to 16, right? The B's can be from 1 to 16. You can select any number as B from 1 to 16, and then the A's automatically will become non-consecutive, right? Excuse me. So the way to solve this question for the case where A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 are not adjacent is to choose B's like this from 1 to 16, where each B is equal to A1 or A2 minus 1 or A3 minus 2 and so on, right? So the number of ways to choose this would be simply selecting 16 number out of 16 numbers, selecting 5. So that will be 16C5, right? So that's a simple way to figure out how you will ensure that all 5 of them are not adjacent. You will select the 5 B's so that you can see that in 16C5 ways, and the total number of numbers that you could have selected was 20C5, right? So we can say the total number of selections of 5 numbers, total number of selections of A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 was basically 20C5, and the total number of selections of B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, right? That was 16C5. And there is a one-to-one correspondence between the number of ways of selecting the B's and the number of ways of selecting A's so that they are non-consecutive. That is what we understood in the previous screen, right? So the required probability of selecting the total number of numbers so that at least 2 numbers are adjacent would be 20C5 minus 16C5. This basically excludes the cases where no adjacent numbers are present. So the remaining cases will have at least 2 adjacent numbers or maybe even more, right? Divided by 20C5. If you calculate this comes out to be 232 by 323. And that becomes your answer. So what have we done in this question? Let's recap briefly. We want to ensure that A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 are not adjacent. So therefore we said that 1 should be less than A1, less than A2 minus 1, less than, not equal to, less than A3 minus 2, less than A4 minus 3, less than A5 minus 4, and that is less than equal to 16. And now we call these as B's and we select B's in these ways. Any selection of B will make the A's themselves non-consecutive, right? So this is an interesting way to handle problems like this. The final required answer is basically coming as 20C5 minus 16C5 by 20C5, which is 232 by 323. And I hope you got something out of this question. If you encounter questions like this, try to rearrange or try to convert your parameters in the question into new variables. Like here we have defined a new variable B1 and that helped us solve it, right? So if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content coming your way. See you in the next video.